It's a new year. It's a new Let's Talk Broncos. Not only are we on time, but all three of us are here for a Monday show. So take that, everybody who doubted us. We're on to the next one. Guys, while I have you here, go ahead, retweet the show. That includes the co hosts as they sit upon me or sit up in front of me. Joey Richards, Zach Seegers, I'm Brie Maestas. I'm retweeting the show, and you should too if you're watching along. If you're over on Twitter, stop that nonsense. Jump on over to YouTube. You can search for us, Let's Talk Broncos, over on YouTube. Join the chat, get involved. That's our favorite part. That's why we go live. It's not because it works great for our schedules. It's because we like getting you involved with the show. And because the Broncos are good now, because they've made the playoffs, it's a perfect opportunity to sign on in, get your thoughts heard, vent about the last 9 years. And yeah, I mean, it's no longer therapy Mondays. Now it's victory Mondays for the first Monday of the new year. Guys, I'm super excited about it. I feel like I could ramble for days on end with how I feel about this team right now. So I need somebody to bring me down to a more level-headed experience here. But first and foremost, Zach Seegers, I think you were the lucky charm there as you accompanied me on Sunday. It was a cold one. I almost died, but grateful that Zach was there with me. Joey, you couldn't go, so it's on you.
I could not. The win is on me, you meant? I thank you. I appreciate that. No, but Zach, he has a lot of ground to make up for before we start
This is
coining him the
not
lucky
true.
charm.
We've pulled
A
out the
lot,
stats. We've
a lot.
pulled out the records before. The Joey's no.
He has a
You're
lot
better
of.
with me in the stadium by far.
No, I literally. I mean, I've already told the story about the guy in TSA before a million times. If he's watching, shout out to you. I literally had somebody in the TSA look at me and say, "Thank God Zach wasn't there yesterday." One time after a Nuggets win, I swear to you, that is not a.
I believe you, and I
Well,
did
no, the
curse
truth.
the Nuggets.
That's my
I
point.
cursed the Nuggets that year. I'll give you that. Broncos, great with me in the building. I won't stand for the slander. It's like the third shutout I've been there for. I mean, is
I
there any
was
more
starting to think it was me personally. You all know the timelines match up there, but look, the curse is broken. We've reset the timeline. The reality is here. Christopher Hart sums it up nicely. Playoffs, baby.
Go.
Ah, man, it feels good. Atomic 626 playoff Broncos. Frankie's film with the playoffs. I don't know. It's like we're slap happy today. I think there's no better way to wrap that up as far as this game goes. But guys, I gotta say, I know that it was Kansas City and their backups. I realize that a lot of people are upset about that, but the Broncos can only face who they're scheduled to face, man. Given the circumstances, it just had to be that way, and they needed to win one of their last three to make that 10th win and make a playoff berth. It just happened to be the last one. There's so many things that I want to talk about tonight, but give me your feelings. I'm going to start with Zach here. Now that the drought has finally been quenched.
I mean, I'm ecstatic. The drought's over. The team's good. It's just fun to have quality football to root for, even if they didn't make the playoffs. And also, who cares if they beat the Chiefs backups? If Alex Forsythe holds up on a chip shot field goal where they did everything right to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead, except for that one last block, he holds up on that block. They've clinched the playoffs going into week 18. And maybe it's the Broncos resting their starters against a team of Chiefs starters who are battling to make sure they get the 1 seed instead of the Bills, because they would have had something to play for in that case. It's a little karmic bounce getting the Broncos back. You probably should have won that game against the Chiefs. So this week, instead of facing the Chiefs starters with your backups, you're facing their backups with your starters. And also, they did what they needed to do. Second biggest margin of victory in Denver Broncos history, largest since 1976. They've played other teams of backups during that stretch. They've played teams that wound up earning the number 1 overall pick in that stretch. They haven't beat a team that bad. The 2013 Broncos hold the NFL record for largest Vegas point spread ever. They were 28-point favorites once. That team didn't shell anyone as bad as this team just beat the Chiefs. So, playing backups or whatever cheapens it to an extent. but they did everything they needed to do and then some. They lit them up. And I think, it's a great tune-up game going into the playoffs. It's the same reason you see these SEC schools, scheduling Northwest Missouri Tech or whatever in week 10. Like, let's drop a 60 burger on someone right before the game start really mattering. I couldn't be higher on this team. Bo Nix looked great. What an epic game. Defense looking better. Riley Moss looking better off injury. I'm feeling really high on this squad.
It's exciting times in Broncos country. It's super, super exciting times. It's been forever. I know everyone feels this too. It's been forever since we've been there. It really started to feel like, all right, just out, like, are we just not ever going to do it? Like, it really started to feel like that. The second longest playoff drought in the NFL, right above the Jets, is what the Broncos were. It's been forever. I was in high school. I've gone through college and started my career. I was in high school when the Broncos won their Super Bowl, and that happened to be the last time they made the playoffs. It's exciting for a plethora of reasons. I think the 5-win total, the expectation to start the season, adds to the excitement even more. I think that the Broncos had to move on and take the biggest cap hit like ever for a guy that you cut in a quarterback. That adds to the excitement of where they are right now. There's a time. Even the narrative from everyone outside of Denver before the season started where Sean Payton, his days are outnumbered. He's not a good coach anymore, right? Bo Nix, what the hell are the Broncos thinking with Bo Nix? Like, the narrative on this team going in was that we would be fighting for maybe a top 5 draft pick, yet here we are in the playoffs. There's a ton of reasons to be excited. And then also, I think, like, I'm always a sucker for thinking maybe a little too far into the future, but it's hard for me to imagine the Broncos fielding a roster next year with less talent than they do this year, which adds to my excitement even more. They're already at this point where they're a playoff team. And I'm thinking next year, there's a really good shot that they're more talented. I think it's like not even just like a really good shot. I would say almost certain that they have more talent on that team next year.
And not only that, they're almost certain to have even further talent 2026 because they still will have, it'll be a lot better next year, but they're still going to have 30 million of that Russ dead cap next year. They might move on from an Alex Singleton or something that'll cost them a little more in dead cap. 2026, I mean, even after they'll extend, Nick Benito or Zach Allen or whatever else this year, they're going to have a lot of money in 2026 to continue to further add talent. And a window is starting to open up for the Broncos here. Sorry, Bree.
Oh, good. Dante requested the air horn, so I will oblige. We're the lucky charm, says Paul. LTB is the Broncos' lucky charm. I also love that. I feel like that should be our propaganda moving forward. So spread the word, chat, so we can get that going. I see a lot of stories pouring in about what you were doing during the drought, those 9 years. Well, I drop them. Let us know. Tell us what you're doing 9 years ago. Tell us what you've done since then, because it's been a long time coming. 9 years is nothing to scoff at, guys. An entire decade. Your life's changed quite a bit. I was joking with the guys earlier, trying to find out how old they were 10 years ago. And then I got sad and I had to move on. But you guys were talking about a couple of things I want to touch on real quickly. And I think one of the most important things is that, yes, this roster is going to get exponentially better simply because everyone thought they were the absolute worst coming in here. So it can only be up from here. But we very well could have seen the Broncos play down to the level of the Chiefs backups. Now, not every single backup was in for the Chiefs. You can't actually field a roster that way, but it was a tremendous showing and a convincing showing from the Denver Broncos. So I want to point that out there because I feel like it's super important to highlight exactly what happened there. I don't want any of the asterisks floating around simply because there was some resting starters, but I do want to emphasize the positive. And Zach, you said the lucky word, the word of the day, bounce. I would also use tip, chaos, circus for one of my most favorite events of the game, which was that Devon Vele catch in the end zone that happened to tip off of 2 different individuals before landing in his hands. But what I want to point out was that from my vantage point, which was also Zach's vantage point, we couldn't really tell what exactly had happened in that moment. It looked like it was for sure out of bounds. There was no way that anybody had come down with the ball. I mean, they were ant sized from where we were seeing the action happen from the other end zone. But when you watch the playback, which I did about 15 times today, the amount of body control and pure willpower it took for Vele to take the ball, turn his body, and just ensure that that was a touchdown score is my absolute favorite play of the game. And it might be one of my favorite plays of this entire year. Joey, you don't have to talk about that play specifically, but what was your favorite moment from Sunday?
Listen, well, I have to start off. That was a great catch, and I also want to shout out Devon
Unreal.
Belay. We came here on after he was drafted. Zach and I, we knew nothing about him. First thing we saw was his age, and we were like, "Damn, we are like, we're like our window here. We got like 2 years." He's put us up. He's shut us up big time. He's been fantastic, especially for a rookie coming on this team and just producing like right away. I can't be mad at it. He's one of the better Broncos receivers. I mean, he's better than the guy they drafted ahead of him in Troy Franklin. I think that's pretty certain. So shout out to Devon Vele. That catch was ridiculous. Listen, though, Bree, as a abused Broncos fan, right? Very abused. We just went over how long it's been. Disappointment. This comment cracked me up, by the way. He got married and had 2 kids since the last time they made the playoffs. Hilarious. But this like is my whole point here. As an abused Broncos fan, even when they were up big, I'm sitting there biting my nails. I'm like, oh my gosh, the Chiefs, the refs are going to have a historic game. They're about to like put up Michael Jordan 80 or Kobe Bryant 80 points in the last game of his career type ref here in the fourth quarter. I don't know what's going to happen. Just kind of being Debbie Downer until the Broncos prove me right. That's how I feel. That's how I have to feel. So my favorite time was when they put Jared Stidham in, because I was like, oh, we made it. I was on the timeline. I was tweeting. I started like putting the memes up. That guy was hating earlier. I'm going to respond to you. Type. I was going crazy once Jared Stidham was in. So that was my favorite moment.
I absolutely love it. Sorry to interrupt real quick. I just wanted to point out this amazing comment from Dante. The Velociraptor, Velociraptor. I like it, even if it's just a play on words. Zach, the floor is yours.
I love both those moments. I think the catch was unbelievable. Maybe the best receiver in this draft outside the top 50, which pretty cool. Also, they'll keep getting better because this roster is so young. Players are going to keep developing. But my favorite moment after this game wasn't the young players. It was all the vets that have been around this team for a while. And I'll also throw Bo Nix in. But the immediate post-game reaction. I mean, Garrett Bowles waving the flag around. I think that's awesome. Cortland Sutton coming off the field. He was clearly emotional about the whole thing. I think that was really cool. In his post-game press conference, talking about how fired up he is to get to spend a portion of his career like playing with Bo Nix. Hope they bring him back. I think that was far out. And then Bo Nix doing a whole lap around the stadium, giving fans high fives. Like, I think that is demonstrating a level of understanding for what this fan base has gone through. And ultimately, I don't know how much weight that carries, but I do think it's nice to see, as someone that supports the Broncos, that someone can that the quarterback kind of empathizes with the fans on that front. And yeah, the future's bright. There are about 1 million reasons why the Broncos should keep getting better from here. And I can't wait to see it.
In true Zach fashion, he gave 8 different examples of his favorite moments. So I appreciate him covering those all very quickly to surmise Sunday's events.
Yes, I can see it in his face right now. He didn't
I
like
love
that
you. I love you. I was happy about it. Because then we don't have to go in a round table of talking about more of them. I want to throw out an honorable mention from the chat, because the chat really likes this one. Zach, what happened here? Because none of us understand physics or math or angles. And you are the wizard. Hold on, let me grab it. It's about the lateral. I'll set you up so you know exactly how to attack this. Jason Bonney. Bo Nix's lateral to Javonte Williams, even though it didn't count. What happened? Because I know you and I watched it. We commiserated about it. Joey doesn't understand backwards or forwards. So what can you tell us why that didn't count and kind of how it worked its way down the field?
Well, apparently it was forward, but I would
Joey, your name isn't Zach, so get out of here.
I just thought I'd give it to him. Hey, layup, oop. Was it forward, Zach?
I don't want to give the wrong answer here, but I think yes, it was forward. I think this is a problem with the NFL's rule book. The NFL, I think by the letter of the law, like it was a lateral. If you're in rugby, that's a lateral, and there's no debate about it. The problem is if you're running forward 20 miles per hour, drive in your car and try to throw something sideways out the window, it's going to be going forward. That's kind of ultimately the problem here. I still haven't seen an angle that's convincing to me that it was a forward pass, frankly. But that's ultimately why it was called the way it was called. It was the momentum moving the ball forward. Even if he was trying to throw it behind him to Javonte, his forward momentum continued to carry the ball forward. That's why the NFL, as these hook and ladders and laterals and all this stuff becomes more prominent in the game, I do think this is an impending evolution on offense. We're seeing the Lions and a few other teams take real advantage of it now. The NFL should be more mindful about this rule and do what rugby has done, where it's not based on the ball point A to point B, but the players. And it accounts for forward momentum some as a result. Because again, in rugby, that's a lateral. And they're a sport where laterals are an integral part of the game. I think the NFL should look off of them for this, because you just can't. One, it was an awesome play. Penalty Rob takes it off the board. And I think anyone watching that play without going into super slow-mo would be like, oh, well, Javonte's behind him, so it's a backwards pass. And that's the way it should be officiated.
I agree. It was backwards. Change the rule. It's stupid. If that was forward, apparently, I still don't really stop it, change the rule. If you want to put in a good rule that'll make offense more fun, that would be one, not all these stupid drops and stuff. That'd be great. Let's put in a fun offensive rule. How about that?
Yeah.
I still don't love it. D-Bronx, I do like this explanation, though. It's kind of like when you throw an object laterally out of a moving car, it still goes forward. It's highly frowned upon, though. That's considered a projectile. And you will get pulled over for it. Fun fact, don't ask me how I know. Guys, this comment's going to upset me, but we got to hit it because it's a super chat. $5 from Brown Panda. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. I don't love this conversation, but let's talk about it. Funny thought, was Justin Simmons the problem this whole, I assume you mean time. Can't believe you spent $5 to send that over. I'm going to give you my wholehearted answer of a no. I do not believe so. It's an interesting concept. I absolutely hate that Justin Simmons isn't here, and I don't think I'm unbiased enough to have a fair conversation about it. I think anything that I tell you will be from a fandom and a I love Justin Simmons point of view. So I will unfortunately have to concede to the boys. It looks like Joey got his hand up first. Joey, what's your take on this one?
Okay, so Justin Simmons in specific, I'm in line with Bree. So no. I will say, though, there is some credence to that the Broncos had to get rid of some leadership, maybe that have gone through these past regimes, to then implement a new culture. I do think there's a little of that. I don't think it's Justin Simmons specific, but I think when you look at, okay, Brand McManus was out when he came here. I'm looking at multiple moves. I think to put in a new culture, it's a lot easier with younger team like the Broncos have right now than it is with established vets that have all been part of the same team for the whole time. So I do think there is credence to that. Justin Simmons, no, though, and I do feel terrible for him. What a shitty situation. I was sitting there thinking this whole offseason, Justin Simmons needs to go to a team where he has a chance at the playoffs. He's never made the playoffs. He deserves the playoffs. So the Broncos make the playoffs and he doesn't. What? Oh, whew. Isn't that a good one?
I mean, generally speaking, I agree with Joey's point. I do think they needed to clean house. This was a losing franchise with a losing culture for damn near a decade. I don't think Justin Simmons is one of those pieces that was necessary to that at all. You know, I think he was a quality part of, like, they keep Garrett Bowles in this changeover and get rid of Justin Simmons. I don't think that was because of Justin Simmons' leadership being problematic and Garrett Bowles is being great. I think it's because Garrett Bowles played left tackle and Justin Simmons played safety. You know, ultimately, though, I do agree. Like, they had to free up money. You know, I think it's a good exercise or a good lesson in causation versus correlation. The two things are correlated together, but I think it had nothing to do with each other, or very, very little to do with each other. You put Justin Simmons on this team instead of PJ Locke, and I think, frankly, they're a notch better on defense, as good as they've been. I think one of the weak points, and love PJ Locke, but I think he has been one of the weak points on that starting defense, or weaker points on that starting defense. And if you were to replace that with Justin Simmons, only gets better. This team only becomes more dangerous to Josh Allen and whatever else in the playoffs. I don't think Justin Simmons was the problem. Like Joey said, though, man, what a bad break. Falcons should have been in the playoffs this year, and they just couldn't get it done. Oh man, I feel terrible for the guy.
They kirked it. I got to get that off my screen. I don't want to look at it anymore. You guys
Wait, shout out to
summed
you.
it up.
Super chat, $5.
Yeah, Brown Panda, you're the man. There's a new commenter in here. If you're not new, I'm going to feel terrible, but I wanted to make sure that I got to you, Mr. Polar Man. I'm going to call you Science Man, though, because it looks like you're a fan of STEM. Where
I know Polar Man. He's
you know the Polar Man? Sweet. I feel like
you.
I've missed him. Ah, there he is. I love that. I love that we're pointing out what our trades are, what we're good at. Mine is not math or science, although I do love science. I'm going to interject a question in here from the Polar Man to give him some run. I know this sounds weird, but is there a running back we should trade up for? I assume he means in the draft. Fellows, let's break up the little celebration Monday with a little what if question. Joey Richards, a running back to trade up for? Is it worth doing that? In the maybe not in the first round. I don't know. I'm perplexed by this because I feel like I know the direction that the boys are going to go into, and they've almost convinced me that trading up for a running back is just too rich for their blood. So, am I right or am I wrong? Am I on the needle? Do I have the compass, Joey?
I think, I mean, I was looking at Zach's face as that question was being read, and I could see the disgust.
Try to suss it out.
In his face for trading up for running backs. Zach, I know your stance on this. I've also have this stance in a lot of areas. Now, I think it depends where I'm trading up, right? If I'm trading up for a running back in the third round, I don't like, hey, if you love the player in the third round for me, it is what it is. You should draft the player you love at that point. The chances are those guys, it decreases a lot that the players are even going to work out when you're down there. And if you can find an actual running back, like 1,000-yard guy, a guy that you believe could be that in the third round, hell yeah, you should do that. I don't care at all. I think you definitely should. Because here's my point. I see Zach's face right now. There's still a scouting aspect of this. I understand what everyone is doing with the numbers and stuff like that. But the reason the draft boards are even set where they are is because people are looking at it with their eyes and evaluating the talent accordingly. And I would rather my GM feel confident and feel like confident in his eyes and confident in what he believes should be out there than just have a guy play by those rules. So, yeah, no, I think like in the third round, it's absolutely fair. In the second round, it gets iffy. In the first round, I would not at all.
Yeah, generally speaking, I don't think you should trade up. I think it's generally a pretty bad bet. I think there's some merit to what Joey's saying. I mean, that's how the Broncos get Riley Moss. But also, like, look at the players you can get at the deadline for like a third round pick. Like, you get quality veteran players, and that's what it costs to move up like 20 spots in the third round once the draft comes around. It's crazy. The values get all out of whack, and it's a big gamble on, again, you're a Hall of Fame level GM if you're batting 50% in the first round. In the third round, it's like 30 to maybe 40% for a great GM. And so you're giving up 2 quality picks where you have a 30-40% shot to just have one 42% shot. It's bad math. It's bad. And that's nothing to do with running backs. I just, generally speaking, I think it's bad practice. And you shouldn't live with these rules hard and fast. Like, there's some teams that literally will never trade up. Yeah, you did. There's some teams that I think are too dogmatic about it and just will never trade up or whatever because it's bad math. Sometimes you should do it. There are times that are the exception to the rule. I think Riley Moss proves that. But yeah, I don't want my GM out here taking 3-leg parlays. That's a bad idea. So that's one. On the trading up for a running back specifically, I just not for me. I think Genty could be worth. Huh?
In the 6th round.
I mean, if it costs nothing, like if it costs number 7
to get your guy in the 6th round, and it's a running back, would we do it?
I mean, I stand by what I just said. Generally speaking, it's a bad practice to be trading up for any player. It's making a parlay. The same reason when you make a parlay in Vegas, like your odds are higher, whatever. You're spending multiple picks to get one pick that's only a tiny bit better than the double picks you're giving up for that. And that's, again, it's fun. Sometimes it works out great. See Riley Moss. It's not that you should never do it. Generally speaking, yes, it's a bad bet. Sometimes parlays hit and you get a lot of money and it's fun. Is it an advisable gambling strategy? No. Like, that's all I'm saying here. Now, running back in particular, I just don't think there's a dude that's worth it in this class. I don't think Genty's worth what it would cost to trade up in the 1st round. I don't think he's that special of a prospect. I liked Barkley and Bijan considerably more. And plus, this running back class is loaded. I'm all for the Broncos spending multiple picks on a running back, but rather than spending them on one running back, spend multiple picks on getting 2 running backs in here. This room could use a lot of talent infused to it. We've seen, like, estimate. I don't know if that's fully panned out for the Broncos. You can miss on these picks. Double up, draft 2 guys. Odds are one of them's a dude. That's my strategy.
I like it. I like the idea that one of them's going to be a dude. Atomic 626 kind of matches where my head is at. Not specifically in this instance, but missed out on Bucky and Tyrone Tracy. A bad bet. Just happens to work its way out there, but that's the draft, guys. It's a dartboard and you're trying to hit things that are constantly moving, and it doesn't always translate to the NFL. So I love the speculation and the very educated and researched analysis that goes into the draft, but sometimes I just want to see how it's going to play out. Scataboo is someone who keeps coming up quite a bit, and I wanted to pull Dante's comment here. Scatabo, guys, come on, he's with me. I hope you're just cramming both of their names together, because Boo and Bo, obviously in the pronunciation department, are a little bit different, but I'm not sold on it. I'm just going to go ahead and stick my face out there in my neck so you guys can shame me and say weird things in the comments, but I just don't see the appeal. It would have to be a late round for it to make sense for me, and I still don't know if I'd really like it. It's one of those players where if he was on any other team, I might just root against him the entire time. But we will be watching this video 2 years from now, and I will be having to make a public apology for it. So, Zach, I saw your finger go up. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
Oh no, you're fine. I put it in the chat just now, but I would actually be fine drafting a running back in the 1st. Just I don't see a dude worth trading up for this. I don't think there's a guy that I don't know. I don't think Genty's that unreal. I think he had a great year and is a good prospect who will go in the 1st round, but like Melvin Gordon went in the 1st round. And also had a year where he almost unseated Barry Sanders for most rushing yards in a single season.
So where this all gets confusing though, like with the trading up or trading not thing, just off of that, where it all gets really confusing is that if I have a 1st round grade on a running back and he's sitting in half at the end of the 2nd round and I'm trying to go and get him, that's where it gets confusing. Like if I were considering him in the 1st round because I liked him that much, but I ended up going a different way. Easily, very well could have been that other guy though. But now he's sitting there in the 3rd round, and I have 2 picks to put together to trade up and get him. That's worth less than the 1st round pick that I almost just took him with. Like, that's where all of this trading up and stuff gets really confusing, because you still have to have opinions on the players. That's always what I come back down to.
If 31 teams went, this guy's not a 1st round talent, to the point where he's falling to the 3rd round, your board might be wrong. I mean, that's kind of the theory that this comes down to. And again, sometimes it's well worth it to trade up, but these GMs are wrong. Even the best ones are wrong more often than they're right when it comes to the middle rounds of the draft. So going, no, but I see that this guy's so great, so it's worth investing multiple mid-round picks in him. That's what everyone who trades up thinks, and they're very often wrong.
D-Bronx has a hilarious comment.
He's so good. Highlight it if you can. I'm doing some filtering over here.
Do I get some listening to this podcast? It's parlays. Everyone here is probably
stop it. No more calculus.
It's very simple. It's
yeah.
I
like it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just doing one of my long contrived sighs. Guys, I'll get back to some Broncos present talk here in a moment. But Joey, you're the one who pointed it out to me. Von Miller's IG post. How fitting is it of the only I think the only Broncos player where we kind of have that mutual, like, I miss you, but we must defeat you, but we're so forlorn about it. And this feels very full circle. And I think that was even the description of the post of it coming back full circle. And it didn't dawn on me until very late yesterday that would be the happening here. I just wanted to throw that out there because it feels fitting for that to be this matchup of such high caliber emotions and finally breaking this drought, and Von Miller being such a huge part of everything. But it's just like once Super Bowl 50 was gone, the magic was lost. I don't know. It's just really, as a fan of this team, first and foremost, I think that really hit me pretty hard. But I thought it was hilarious. He's always been away with posts. Zach, did you get a good chuckle out of that one?
No, I thought of a point to bolster your Scattaboo hate, but
we've moved past it.
I know. That's why I wasn't going to say
I'm
it.
really
You
sorry about
prompted me. I didn't try and interrupt.
Well, I
me for having an internal thought.
I was prompting you to talk about Von Miller's IG post.
Yeah.
I thought you were like, oh, did you have a chuckle there, Zach? And so, okay.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry.
Von
chuckle
Miller
at the IG post is what she bet, Zach. That's what she said.
I'm sorry about that, Bree.
It's okay. We'll go to therapy later. We'll figure it out.
No, I love it. I think it is kind of funny. I think his caption was like, it's come full circle or whatever. And yeah, it has. I think there's a poetry to it. You know, last time they were in the Super Bowl or in the playoffs, it was Von Miller winning Super Bowl MVP. And now they're playing against him. I stand by what I said last year when we were previewing that game, though. I'm not that worried about Von Miller. He's not the thing that worries me in this game. If it comes back to bite me, we'll see. But last time, I think he didn't record a stat. And he's been better this year. But yeah, I'm ultimately, I don't think there's going to be a revenge game or anything. I think it's just going to be good vibes. Von Miller happy to see his team in the playoffs. There'll probably be some hugs, some photo ops after the game, whichever way it goes. And yeah, it's a nice story.
I mean, I'm with you. And then you just got to go, just like last year, Von Miller doesn't scare me at all. Bro, Von Miller is having a good year. He's a legend here in Broncos country. He's having a really good year with them. He got suspended, which is hurting his numbers quite significantly there, especially up into the suspension. He was putting up numbers this year. Von Miller's been good this season. He has been. It's been a little bit of a resurrection from him to last year to this
Definitely
year.
Better than last year.
A lot better than last year. Von Miller is actually like a very good contributor for that Buffalo Bills team. He's been very good this year. To the IG post though, he's in my mind, Bree, he's the GOAT since I've started watching the Broncos, like the absolute GOAT. If I were to do the Mount Rushmore of Broncos since I started watching, Von Miller would be my first selection to put up there. He's the greatest. And then when I start adding on that, like, he's handled leaving the Broncos how I think all fans want players to leave the Broncos, where it's like, oh, I still have so much love for this team. Like, I love them. Like, I want to retire a Bronco still. He brings them up all the time. I love it.
He knows how to play that game, right? Even if he's just tugging on heartstrings. I hope he retires a Bronco and all goes well. But Valahan, sorry, I butchered that. Vaughn plays the long con, sacking Allen on the final Buffalo drive to win it for the Broncos. Ignore how. Yeah. Versus it going against all odds and let alone legality of the game. I love this visual because it would just be like, you'd be shocked. Christopher Hart's making WWF announcer guy noises at the thought of it happening. I love this. This is hysterical to me. It is why I do what I do, and it plays into my penchant for wrestling. So I appreciate the comments here as we work through this. Guys, if you want to get involved on what our topics of conversations are, you can start to drop questions if you would like to do so. If you have questions for us, we'll try to cover some of them. We're not in a super rush today. At least I'm not trying to run off screen at the moment. So, and we got all three of us, so we've got some time to podcast with you all. There's a lot of people watching. We appreciate you. If you would like the stream and maybe drop a comment later if you're not watching this live, it really helps boost us. So if you like what you're watching, unless it's like 25 Cincinnati Bengals fans, which my apologies, but I'm sorry, not sorry. So we'll continue on.
They've been crying, by the way. I'm so sorry.
I really
I'm so sorry.
apologize.
Listen, we're into playoffs. I'm going to start talking about shit more. All of a sudden, I'm sorry, Bengals fans. They were unbearable.
Beat the Patriots at home. You know, like win 2 games in September one time.
Yeah. I mean, get it done. We got it done. It just took a while. It just took to the last game. All right, and we had to go through the gauntlet of fire and meet all the teams when they were down. Anyway, let's move on to a little bit of coaching news today as we talk about the implications of having a good team, having a good defense. It means there's eyes on your coordinators, your consultants, your coaches, and they can be pilfered and plucked from where they stand. Looks like both Vance Joseph and David Shaw are getting their name, bless you, are getting passed around and what is it when you the solicited for an interview? I think solicited can still be worded like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm old though, so I'm not sure about the slang and what happens there. But guys, I'm really worried about losing Vance Joseph. I was really worried about losing Christian Parker. Listen, the times change, things happen, and there are continuity enhancements to ensure that the team does not suffer the greatest of losses, but this one would feel so very personal. I hate seeing this news, but it is the evolution of football seasons. You lose teammates, rosters, coaches, and the latter would be though is Vance Joseph isn't heading and helming this defense anymore. Joey, does that mean Jim Leonard stops in? What does that mean for this defense? Would it spell disaster for a team that's been trying to build?
I feel like the Broncos did a really good job of like having backup plan here with Jim Leonard. This is the coach, guys, that was one of the most highly sought after defensive minds in college football. Him now getting his feet wet in the NFL coaching circles. He was a former player, obviously, with the Jets under Rex Ryan, and then with the Broncos as well. Jim Leonard is a plenty capable defensive coordinator, one that, I mean, has been super highly thought of too as a play caller in college football. So I do think that he would just step in. I don't think they would really have to look for anybody. I guess if Vance Joseph did leave, somehow Jim Leonard didn't get the job, another name to throw out there would be Dennis Allen, who has ties to Sean Payton in New Orleans when he was the head coach down there. Dennis Allen was the defensive coordinator, another really good defensive coordinator. 2. I think Dennis Allen would be a hell of a hire. I also just want to shine some light on Vance Joseph. I was thinking about this today, and I think he's a better candidate as a head coach than people are giving him credit to, in my mind. When I start looking at, yes, he failed his first time. It felt like from the beginning of that hire, correct me if you guys think I'm wrong, but from the beginning of that hire, it was just like the Broncos really screwed up hiring the super inexperienced and young coach. All right, cool. If that's what happened, he has plenty of experience now. He's been on plenty of coaching staffs now, which I think lends itself hand in hand to being able to put together a staff. He has connections in the league. And then also is coming off of a defense like he just did this year, where they were great. He also has the experience of being versatile, taking a job where the head coach was asking him to run a different defense than what he actually ran, still took the job, everything like that. I think Van Joseph, it would be a pretty good hire. I think we're underestimating it. And I honestly, I was looking at the Jets candidates today. I think Van Joseph would be right up towards the top of the guys I would hire if I were the New York Jets.
Yeah, I think he's got a great shot to wind up getting one of these jobs. I fully agree with what Joey said there. I would be very surprised if the Broncos defensive coordinator next season isn't one of Vance Joseph or Jim Leonard. I think if Vance Joseph doesn't get a head coaching job, it's him. I think if he does get a head coaching job, it's Jim Leonard.
Yeah.
Jim Leonard's, I think, from what I've heard or whatever, there's plenty of interest in him going back to college and getting a DC job. And the reason he hasn't accepted one of those yet is because he thinks there might be a better opportunity for him out there, right? That's probably the DC job in Denver. He was kind of hired as the DC in waiting. If Vance Joseph, like, they might do the interview process or whatever they have to do to satisfy the NFL there. I think it would be very surprising if Vance Joseph takes a head coaching job and the DC for 2025 is anybody but Jim Leonard.
I think also, like, Jim Leonard had plenty of opportunity even last year to take hell of like defensive coordinator jobs in college. I think if that was his route, he would have done it last year. Honestly, I think he has a shot at being a defensive coordinator for someone in the NFL this next year. To the other Zach point, where he thinks better opportunities are at. College football is weird nowadays with all the NIL and transfer portal stuff. From everything I hear, it's just easier to coach in the NFL than it is college football nowadays. And I think Jim Leonard is one of the coaches that agrees with that, which is why he left college football to begin with. He could have been the play caller last year at a plethora of Division I, really good top 25 teams, for sure.
And to the comp pick point, I think Broncos fans should want to see Vance Joseph hired because you're going to lose one of these two one way or the other, I think. And if Vance Joseph is the one you lose to a head coaching job, you get 2 third-round picks. The Broncos would get 2 compensatory picks in the 2026 NFL draft, and that would be really valuable. I just pulled up the draft value pick chart. Jimmy Johnson has the famous one, but since they've kind of modernized it for the new CBA rules and everything. And if you look at roughly where those comp picks would fall, each pick should have a value of around 650. 1,300 is the value of the 29th pick in the draft. If Vance Joseph gets hired somewhere, it's like you're picking up extra first rounder, an extra late first rounder. Like, that's awesome. Like, that's sweet value. It would be, and you can trade comp picks now is the other thing. So, including those comp picks. So, just a great deal for the Broncos, would open up a lot for them. And I think the defense would be able to keep churning. I think the step the defense took from even the second half of last year to this year, the physicality the DBs were playing with and everything, I don't think it's coincidental that overlapped with Jim Leonard's hiring, especially considering that's been a trademark of Jim Leonard defenses for as long as he's been a DC.
Yeah, I don't like that you're throwing around the idea that we would have draft picks to fumble around with or fiddle around with. I want to keep them all. I want to scurry them underneath me like a dragon in its gold. Finally have all of them. I don't want to let any of them go. But I know, as is the game, if you want something, you have to pay the cost for it. And sometimes it's trading some picks. But let's just see what we can do with them to start. I love all the comments that are coming through, but you guys are making my head spin a little bit. I want to highlight some other really positive stuff from Sunday and from the team in general. Jimmy Smith said both threw a touchdown to number 17 for
Love
his
it.
17th completion out of 17 attempts last night. They just created their own angel magic to quell the Chiefs' devil magic. This for sure means they're winning the Super Bowl. I love this positivity. It was kind of weird to be talking about that, Zach. We were looking at some record-breaking completion attempts until the ill-fated lateral. I think that's the one that finally undid that. I can't let this go on for too long. I'm so sorry.
It's been a while. You gotta give it to
Yeah,
the guy.
I know. He's like really muted. He's like, oh,
Oh, he just
he
left.
left. He said, I don't want to do this anymore, and he just
He
Oh,
left.
looks like
wait, am
sorry.
I here? Am I back?
Yeah, you're
Oh,
Oh,
back.
it
Hey.
just crashed for me. It didn't even say I was muted. That's why I was so confused. I had the. Anyways, that
You
one
had
I'll
something
stand by wasn't on me. My thing crashed. I was so confused. Yeah, it was amazing. What a great performance. It was the one where he was rolling out, kind of fading away. Finally, was the first completion. I think it was his 19th attempt, but the record to start a game is 25 straight completions. He was damn close to that.
It doesn't get any better than that. I do like the idea that we're creating some anti-devil's magic, I guess. Well, yeah, we'll chalk it up to that. Jimmy Smith, thanks for bringing that to my attention. I really liked reading that and putting it on the show. Yeah, D-Bronx, you're right. I highlighted this earlier and I didn't get to share it. The Seahawks almost lost to the Rams backups, by the way. Surely. And this Denver Broncos team plays down to their competition all the time. It just comes down to any given Sunday. And that brings me to Polar Man's comment. I know this sounds crazy, but is Buffalo really that good? Polar Man, funny enough, I have been on the same wavelength of you all season. Now, please do not come at me. Anybody watching this, Cincy fans, Bills fans, Bronco fans, I'm not saying that the Bills are not a good team. There's just been multiple instances in which they've only won the game by 3 points. All right. So let's get it straight here. I think the Texans, Jets, Dolphins, and Rams were pretty close games, and they haven't faced the most treacherous schedule to start this season. And I just did it with the Broncos, so I'm going to do it with the Bills too. They have to play who they're scheduled to play. Josh Allen is a tremendous talent, and he's playing what I would say is the best ball of his entire career. But I will also say he's not the MVP. Lamar Jackson is. So there's a little bit writing here where it's on Josh Allen, and how Josh Allen plays during that wild card game is going to determine how the game goes on Sunday. I feel like he is the contributing factor, and I'm not saying that they're not a good team built around him. I'm not high on them. I was high on them for 2 to 3 seasons, and I thought they could get it done, and they didn't. And now it's the Broncos' turn to try to upset them, and what a crazy circumstance it would be. Now, I'm going to let the boys talk about it because I know their brains are spinning around this topic. But the idea is we'll have a preview show come Wednesday where we'll dive into exactly how we think this game is going to go. But why not an early preview? The Broncos are 9.5-point dogs, and they have the opportunity to win and upset the entirety of the NFL. To me, that sounds like the origin story for this era of the Denver Broncos. Zach Seegers, without muting yourself, what say you?
Yeah, I think they could absolutely do it. I think this is a very winnable game. I think the Bills are a great team, but I think it's a great matchup for the Broncos. The Bills have really struggled against teams with that lean on man coverage and that are able to execute it really well. And the Broncos are exactly that team. They've also really struggled. I thought actually on ESPN, I was surprised on ESPN TV. I heard good points, but I did this morning talking about how the Bills have really leaned into running a lot of 4x1 looks for pass catchers on one side, one on the other. And the Broncos defense is amazing against those looks because you can put Surtain on that isolated side, feel great about how he's going to hold up, and shift coverages towards that overloaded side.
Yeah. Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
you guys were looking at me blankly. I thought I was muted for a second. I was like, "Is
oh
there?"
no, I was like, damn, that was
Chris bought into what you're saying.
I
That's
just know. I
you
appreciate it.
started
I'm
podcast
anxious
beef with
now because
ESPN. So now I'm anxious that they're going to
no,
swoop in.
I'm anxious now because the last time it didn't say I was muted, but I was muted. But yeah, it was great. Their run defense really good. Bills are a run first offense now, kind of under Joe Brady. I think the Broncos are set up well to defend that. And if you make it a low scoring game, at least for the Bills offense, Bills defense has a tendency to come up small in the playoffs. They've been doing that for this whole Josh Allen run. And if you keep it low scoring, it's going to be close at the end, and you'll just need to make a few critical drives in the fourth quarter, and you could win the game. I think this is a more likely win than on the road against the Chiefs in Arrowhead. They almost had that one.
I think this is going to be a closer game than will I have the Broncos to win? We'll see. I'm not all the way on that train right now, but I think it's going to be closer than like the spread. I do think that. I think the Broncos are going to play this game pretty much like closer. I think they have favorable matchups for Buffalo's offense versus the Broncos defense. Broncos defense is good. I think we can all acknowledge that at this point, especially when Riley Moss is in the lineup and they're a healthy unit, which is what they are outside of middle linebacker. But to Bree, your original point of like, are the Bills actually that good? I would say they are that good, but in the same way the Broncos are that good, they're out succeeding, I think, their talent level on their team. But a lot of that goes to their coaching staff, and a lot of that goes to their quarterback as well. They are that good, but it's because of Josh Allen and everything else they have going on. Josh Allen is having a ridiculous year, along with their running game. Their running game has been fantastic. No, I have James Cook on my fantasy team. My guy gets touchdowns. Like their running game is really good. Josh Allen is fantastic. It's a challenge whenever you have to go and play a team like this. We played Joe Burrow, a fantastic quarterback, just a couple weeks ago, and he diced us up. It's just you're hoping to contain these guys. Can you really though? Like that's really what's going on here for this game.
Absolutely. And like I said, we'll have a full preview on Wednesday where we'll dive into the nitty gritty. Mondays are for reflection. It's for setting your intentions for the week and manifesting some positive vibes, which we've done relatively well tonight. If you're still watching along with us, now's a chance if you want to get any last minute questions in. But I will end on a note of give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you're here by chance, subscribe to the program. Go on over to letstalkbroncos.com where we've got articles coming at your face 100 times per second. And Zach put out some fantastic content, and he's going to have a stock up, stock down report out. And he's nodding his head along like he wants to add something to the conversation. What else you got? Oh, no. Cool. That was my bad this time. We're just miscuing. Listen, we were out in the cold, and it kind of froze my brain and all of my extremities. And I was just not a happy camper yesterday, but we prevail and we move on. Tuesday's episode of Altitude Adjustment. The boys are back after a 2-week hiatus of holidays and family fun times. Tune in for Mario Vitanzi and Patrick Chiotti as they come at you with their special episode here on Let's Talk Broncos. That, of course, is Altitude Adjustment. Wednesday, we'll be back with a Broncos-Bills playoff preview. I cannot believe it. We are headed to the big time, guys. Get your boots ready because we're going stepping. I don't think they do stepping up in upstate New York, but it felt like that was the right thing to do. Bills, Cowboys, Broncos, etc. Can't tame this Mustang. Guys, I've been in this mood all day, and I blame it on this Broncos team. I'm vamping at this point. Full Field Reader will be coming at you too, and it looks like the chat is good. TY, thank you. OGs, best ever. Original gangsters. That's us. All right, guys, we appreciate you. We're going to head on out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Watch some more football, and we will see you back here on Wednesday. We love you. Appreciate you. Go Broncos. You got to hit end stream.